just very quickly, how's this? About 1 hour after I shot that last piece of footage, we had a massive hailstorm like you've never seen before. It's caused monumental damage to roofs, cars and vegetation. So I've spent the last couple of days repairing damage and cleaning up. Just a bit to go, so stick with me and we'll get back to that deck. Now that was off the charts, and that's just one of those unexpected little surprises that you need to deal with when you're building your house as an owner builder. Whew, that was a shocker. G'day folks, Uncle Knuckleheads here with part 2 of my beach shack renovation, where the project finally all comes together after 10 long months of non-stop grind. And of course, bank draining bills. Now look, this project has been an absolute mission, but after all that hard work, I think you're going to like what you see. So, without further ado, let's get stuck into it. Oh yeah, very quickly, just so you know, this is part 2 of a 2-part series. So if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure you do that first so that you get a better context of what's been happening and where we are at. And I'll leave a link to that video down below. Now I also have a host of other video content that I made relating to parts of the project that were a little more technical, and I just didn't have the time to add to this video. So if you're interested, you can check them out down below as well. Okay, that's it. Let's go. The simple things. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knuckleheads here, and as you can see, we're just about ready to hang our first sheet of plasterboard or drywall. But the first thing you need to do is to apply some gyprock glue to those studs, and then bang, there it is, our first sheet. Now you'll also notice that the boys are hanging the sheets from the top down, and the reason for that is that we're square setting this room and we want a nice tight join against the ceiling. These walls are 3 meters high, and as a result we need 2 horizontal joins. That's why the boys have put the narrow piece in the middle, because it's much easier to set those joins at eye height rather than have to set up a scaffold for the top join. That's a good idea, boys. Well done. Now it's a good idea before you put down that bottom sheet that you lay down some packers. You can just use some gyprock offcuts, and the reason for that is that the sheet sits on those packers which act as an expansion joint. You take the packers out after the sheet's been installed. You then put on your dobs of glue every 200 to 300 millimeters, starting 300 millimeters from the top and 300 millimeters from the bottom. And you don't put any glue on the end stud. Here come the lads, got their first sheet. Putting it on top of those packers. Packers are there to cater for any movement down the track. Away they go. So they screw the top, and the sides, and the bottom, but nothing in the middle of the sheet. You put a screw in the middle, it might pop down the track. Beautiful. So what are you making here, Jeff?
Gyprock pencil.
Gyprock pencil.
Hey.
Interesting. And that's for... Oh, mate.
No top plate.
No top plate, so I've got to mark where the studs are. Oh. You're a genius, Jeff. So a bit more glue, Jeff.
More glue.
Here come the boys. The big sheet that'll go right across the door. And I'll cut the door out later.
Beautiful fit. Well done, fellas. Now we don't have a top plate on this wall. It's mainly hidden because we actually dropped the ceiling by 50mm, which meant that the top plate didn't come into play. Now Nate's just cutting out that doorway with a gyprock saw. So you'll saw all the way up that stud, all the way to the head of that frame. Now you flick that sheet up when he's ready. And Jeff has snuck out the back and he's scoring the top of the sheet at door head height. Flick the sheet up, cut along the crease, and presto, there's the doorway opening. And then nail that sheet off around the stud. With only a couple of sheets to go, the place is really coming together. It's looking good. So those wall sheets are basically all done, and if you want to have a go yourself, go onto CSR Gyprock's website, which I'll leave a link to in the description box below, where you can download an installation guide that will take you through the whole process. Alrighty, the boys are about to kick off on the ceilings and the cornice work, so hopefully in a few days time you can check back on that one. Well, I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alrighty, I think it's time for a cup of tea, so till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and as you can see we're now mixing up our first gauge of base coat to start setting our wall and ceiling joins. Now the first job is to bed some paper tape into that recess between the two sheets of plasterboard or drywall, and that's made so much easier with this tool here that Nate's using called a banjo. Now if you don't have one of those tools, which most people don't, then you can do the same thing with just using a trowel. And inside the box it looks something like that. Tasty. So to load the box up, is it called a box? Just a,
Yeah. Pretty sure. Banjo.
a banjo. Yeah.
Just
Open her up.
that's it. Just make sure the tape's along the outside.
Runs on the outside.
Make sure the gauge is pretty sloppy.
Yeah, a runny gauge. And then
pour
pour
it
that base coat in. Just like you're making a cake.
Pretty much. And after all that, just pop it back on.
Probably not as tasty as a cake.
It tastes pretty bad. But, yeah,
Ready to go.
that's it.
Cool. Once you put that tape down, then you'll bed that paper tape into that mud.
Yep, and then you just got to fill the recess up.
Fill the recess, yep. And what are you using for that? Just
base coat, yeah.
Gyprock's base coat.
Yeah.
Yep. And with the banjo, you can even do internal corners, so it's a pretty versatile tool. And like I said before, if you haven't got a banjo, you can do it by hand. First of all, put down some base coat, then grab your paper tape, cut it off, then bed that in with a trowel. With the joins all set, it's now time to start installing some cornice or crown moulding, which Jeff is now cutting, simply using a miter box and a handsaw. And to hang the cornice, the boys are using Gyprock's Cornice Cement 45. And what that 45 means is that if mixed correctly, you have 45 minutes working time before the cornice cement starts to go off. Okay, so with the cornice, just a nice light coating down each edge, just like that, and it's ready to go up. The job's made a lot easier if you can have somebody holding the cornice or the crown moulding while the other person applies the cornice cement. And now we're ready to install that cornice. Just carefully place it in position and then squeeze it firmly against the wall and the ceiling, and you can see that cornice cement just oozing out those edges. And then get a clout and put one underneath and one up top in various positions, and that should hold that cornice in place until the cornice cement goes off. Now before that cornice cement goes totally hard, the boys get out a damp sponge and wipe off all that excess cornice cement. And they also take out those nails at this point and fill in those little holes. And once that's all done, then it's just time to finesse some of those joins. Bit of Michelangelo action going on there. It's looking good. Now just in regard to that cornice or cove or crown moulding that we've just installed, most project home builders by default will just install a stock standard 90mm cove cornice. It's quite bland and boring. So what I've decided to do is to install CSR's Alto, A-L-T-O, profile. It's a modern profile which suits this house absolutely beautifully, and once painted up, it's going to look fantastic. Now the last job that we need to do to finish the plasterboarding off is to sand down all those joins. Now if you've done that before, you'll know how time consuming, dirty and dusty that job is. So what the boys have is an automatic sanding machine, which is basically an industrial size vacuum attached to a sanding disc. And as you can see, even though it's in fast motion, the job is so much quicker and cleaner. So if you're doing a large area and you can get your hands on one of these machines, do it. And here it is. After 2 long weeks, the plastering is all done and it looks absolutely fantastic. Now I hope you can stick around for the next episode where I'll do a walkthrough of the whole property with the plasterboard or the drywall installed. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. And if you want to have a go yourself at setting those joins or putting up that cornice, make sure you check out CSR Gyprock's website where you can download the installation booklet. And I'll leave a link to those guys in the description box below. So make sure you check them out. Alrighty. Well, I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alright, I think it's time for a cup of tea, so till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. So what do you reckon? Here it is, all done, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be any happier. Right now, we're standing in the kitchen. The dining area is here, and the living area is over there. And if we head over this direction, and I apologise for the echo, it's a bit empty in here, but if you follow me this way, come on. You can see right the way down to the front door. We come to our first room on the right hand side, and that's our main bathroom, which has just been waterproofed. We then come to our laundry, our internal laundry, which has also just been waterproofed. It's a bit dark in here, so we're waiting for a skylight to be installed. This is the bedroom next to the laundry, and it'll be one of the kids' bedrooms. This is the master bedroom, which leads into the ensuite, just out the back there. And here's the ensuite that leads off our bedroom, and that's also just been waterproofed. So we can't really go in there because the waterproof membrane is still a bit tacky. But this should look really good once all the tiles are up. Looking forward to it. This is just another one of the kids' bedrooms with the road. Now you'll notice how we've got extra high doors in this house because of the high ceilings. The doors are actually 2340 high. Standard door height is 2040. So about 300mm higher than a normal door. This is the office at the front of the house where I hope all the money's going to be made to pay for this renovation. Hopefully. Here's our garage. Excuse the mess, but there is a house being built, so you gotta expect a bit of mess. And here's our front veranda, which will have a deck under it before too long, I hope. So you can see the ceiling all done. As we come around to our garage. And we'll finish off with our rear deck. That's the ceiling for the rear deck. Not bad, hey? So I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful. And as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Alrighty, I think you know what time it is. It's time for a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. When it came time to laying the cement beds and the tiling process, there was a truckload of footage. So to shorten this video, I've added links to all the tiling videos below, which you can check out if you're interested in seeing how to lay a cement bed or how to lay wall and floor tiles, as well as the grouting process. Now, while Justin's inside finishing off those cement beds, I thought it'd be a good idea to duck outside and put an undercoat on those verandas. And inside, Justin's still in there working out all these levels, just trying to get that cement bed just right. Now just remember when laying your cement bed that you have to work from the back of the room and then back toward the door, just like Justin's doing here. Otherwise you'll be working all over your beautiful fresh new floor. Now just clean that up, a few touch-ups, get rid of the excess, and we are finished. And that's how it's done, folks. He makes it look easy, doesn't he? Trust me, it's not. And if you stick around for the next episode, Justin will walk you through how to install some of those wall and floor tiles. The plumber's cracked there, mate. Looking good.
Wouldn't be me if it wasn't.
That's right, mate. We have Dylan over here, the Sparky, and he's been putting in or cutting out the holes for the lights and the fans. Now he's just tackling the fans and the lights on the back deck. How's it all going, mate?
Pretty good, mate.
Pretty good?
Making lots of holes.
Making holes, looking good?
Looking good so far.
Excellent.
I would think so.
No holes in the wrong spot as yet?
I'll show you.
Very good.
Little ones.
Keep it up, mate. And that's the floor tiling all done, and I couldn't be any happier with how it turned out. Alright, well I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. And make sure you stick around for the next episode where Justin's going to be installing the wall tiles. Should be a good one. Is that the time? Must be time for a cup of tea. So till then, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 33 of my Own a Builder series. Now I've got a lot going on today, and we're kicking off nice and early with putting up our garage door, which is pretty exciting. Now these installers generally work by themselves, and I've often wondered, how do they get those big doors up without any assistance? Well, here's the trick. They install ropes with loops down from the brackets above the door. Then simply insert one end of the garage door into that loop, which supports it, and then lift it up, put it into the next loop on the other side, and then repeat the process. Pretty ingenious. And before you know it, there's the garage door up on its brackets, ready to be screwed down. Well done. And look at that. Door goes down and door goes up. Mission accomplished. Toss away all the wrappings and we are good to go. And while the garage door was being installed, I've had Vic Lindsay, the excavator driver, and Mark Passmore, the plumber, in the backyard doing some earthworks regarding our sewer and stormwater lines. Oh, and I can't forget Gidge, the fox terrier. Gidge is Vic's best mate, and she spends most of the day on the back of the excavator keeping Vic company. She's got a pretty good life, Gidge. She loves it. And here's the trench for the stormwater, which runs across the back of the property and then down the side fence. Now the boys had a real hard time with this because it was just full of tree roots, which is a plumber's worst nightmare. And here I am offering Mark a bit of useless information while he puts together that stormwater pipe.
Just take a scratch through, Vic.
You can see now that the trench is getting a bit deeper. This is the line for our sewer pipe, which has to meet up with the boundary trap in the back of the yard, which is that square bit of concrete there with the pipe that goes down to the base of that boundary trap. We need to get down to the base so we can hook up the sewer pipe. Got to be a bit careful here because you don't want to break it. Steady. Watch it. Watch it. Good stuff, Vic. Never doubted you for a moment. So like I said at the start of the video, it's all systems go today. With Mark and Vic in the backyard, Justin's doing some wall tiling, and I've started to do the fix out. I've decided to start with some skirting board or baseboard and some architraves in the old section of the house. We can't do the new section yet because the floorboards haven't been installed. Once they're installed, then I can put down the architraves and then the skirting board or the baseboard. And like I said at the start of the video, there's a fair bit going on at the moment, and I think that's going to be the nature of the beast for the rest of the build. What, this whole thing? I'm glad you asked. This is a bit of old fascia which I salvaged when I pulled down part of the old house. And I've got this and a stack of other stuff out the back, which as a housewarming present I'm going to make a nice rustic old outdoor table. I think with a bit of TLC and a few repairs, it's going to come up an absolute treat. Alrighty, well I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alrighty, guess what? I'm off for a cup of tea, so till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. Now I think I'll leave the big fella alone and let him get on with his wall tiling, and we'll come back in the next video where we'll do a quick tutorial on how to grout those tiles. And if you've noticed some background noise while the tiling's been going on, it's because of these guys putting down the floor, and we'll get to that video shortly. So I hope you enjoyed and found that episode useful, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alright, till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 36 of my Owner Builder series. Now I've been looking forward to this, and that's installing the timber flooring. I was going to do it myself, but after hearing a few horror stories about excessive timber movement in these humid conditions, which is where I live, I've decided to go with professionals, which I think will pay off in the long run. And here is the flooring. The species is blackbutt, which is an extremely durable hardwood, and the size is 130 by 19. And these are the timber battens, which are secured to the slab, and the flooring is attached to those battens. Now some guys or some floor installers like to direct stick the flooring to the slab just using glue. Personally, I like to put a batten down first, because that creates a layer of air between the top of the slab and the underside of the flooring. So there's a bit of air circulation or ventilation, which is always a good thing. Now what's happening here is there's holes being drilled through the batten and into the slab, and then some anchors are hammered in, which secure the batten to the concrete slab. It's a really good system. Now with any flooring project, the most critical board is that first one. You have to get it down straight, and using a string line helps you guide you through that process. Now like I said before, timber flooring will expand when there's moisture in the air. That's why it's very important that around the perimeter of the room that you're doing, that you have at least a 10mm gap between the drywall and the edge of that perimeter board. Make sure you do it, and that way you'll minimise any potential dramas that may occur down the track due to those floorboards expanding. And look at these guys go! They are on fire! And just in case you're wondering about that nail gun, it's called a secret nailer, and all you have to do is hit the top of it with a rubber mallet, which in turn drives a staple just above the tongue on the floorboard and into the timber batten, which secures it nice and tightly. Now the good thing... What was that? That totally threw me. And the good thing about this system is that there are no visible fixings, so you don't need to go back later and punch and fill any of those holes, which is a real time saver. And this is all you have to do is hit the top, and that drives in the staple. Too easy. Now the guys are just finishing off here with the hallway. Got a bedroom to go, and we are done. Love it. So as you can see from the video, what the boys do to secure these hardwood battens down to the timber slab is that first of all they run a bead of glue down the back edge of each of these boards. And the glue that they use is this stuff here called Ultraset. If you can get your hands on it, do it, because it's absolutely amazing. And once the boards are glued and placed down on top of the slab, they drill a series of holes into that board every 500mm or so. Into those holes, they insert these anchors called splits anchors, S-P-L-I-T-S. TZ. Once they get driven into the board and the glue dries, to remove this batten from that concrete slab, you'll be leaving timber on the concrete slab. It is that good a system. So one thing to remember when laying a timber floor is that you need to have a gap between the edge of your last board and the plasterboard or drywall. And the gap has to be at least 10 millimeters. And the reason for that is that in moist conditions, your boards do expand. And if there's no expansion joint there, the boards will eventually hit up against that wall and they'll have nowhere to go but to force the rest of the boards to come up. And you don't want that to happen. And don't worry about that gap, because your skirting board or your baseboard will cover it. So that rule for the expansion joint also applies for areas where you might have a big run of boards. And around here, the rule is for every 6 meters of board, you need at least 10 mil worth of expansion joint, which is what I have right here. This is the end of my 6 meter run. Once the floor gets sanded, this gap is filled with a flexible filler. And it's good to put it in a spot where you're not going to notice it. I've got some double doors going here, so you won't notice it that much at all. But the main thing is that you do it. So that's it, folks. The floor is done. And just between you and I can't wait to show you how it turned out after it was sanded and polished. Mwah! It turned out beautiful, but you'll just have to be a little bit patient for that video to come out. Now, I've also sanded the old floor in the old part of the house, and the contrast between the two is fantastic. With the flooring down, I can now get stuck into the fit out or the fix out, so I hope you can stick around to see how it all comes together. And as per usual, I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful, and don't forget, a big thumbs up is always greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Floor's down, video's done, must be time for a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers.
Now, like with all the tiling videos, there was a lot of info regarding the skirting board or baseboard. So if you'd like to check out how to install them, I've added a link to the video down below.
G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here. Hands up, who's ever attempted to install some baseboard or skirting board on an external corner only to have it finish up looking like an absolute dog's breakfast with a big gap along that leading edge? Now there's a good reason why that happens. When the plasterers or drywallers put on their external angle and then cover that with mud, it throws that 90-degree angle out of the ballpark, as you can see here. And it's even more pronounced over a shorter distance. And that's why your 45-degree angles on your skirting boards won't work. Now this little tip that I'm going to share with you now, it's a bit of a tradesman's secret, so mum's the word. Forget about going out and buying compasses and protractors and learning Pythagoras theory. Just cut your skirting board or baseboard to 46 degrees. That's what most contractors do, and it works 99% of the time. If you don't believe me, get a couple of test pieces and try it out for yourself. Now you saw earlier how far out this corner was. I've got my two 46-degree angles cut on my baseboard or skirting board, and they go together absolutely beautifully. So there you have it, how to easily install baseboard or skirting board to an external corner. Great tip, Knackers! Well, I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful. And as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alrighty, time to put some baseboard on and then have a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here with another 1 minute handy tip. Whenever you have a long run of baseboard or skirting board that requires you to join the boards, make sure that you join the board over a stud. That way, when the boards go back together, you can nail into that stud, keeping that join nice and tight. If you don't do it and you join it midway between two studs, that join is going to flap and come open. Great tip, Knackers! Don't forget, big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 40 in my Owner Builder series. Well, it's fix out time, or as some people may call it, the fit out. I like this stage because it means you're getting close to the end, and it's also not as taxing on the body, which is handy. Now make sure you get those jambs in nice and straight, because nobody likes a crooked door. Now, I'm under the pump a bit at the moment because the electricians, well, they're due tomorrow, and when they turn up, I'm not going to have power for a while. So I'm working flat out, getting all the jams done, hanging all the doors, just so that I'm not wasting time. In fact, I'm even working at night. Whew! Things are crook in Tallarook. I feel like I'm on one of those renovation reality shows on TV where I've only got a couple of hours left before the big reveal. And speaking of reveals, I'm just attending to these reveals on this sliding door and just attaching some architrave work. And once that's all done, it's time to crank up the concrete demolition machine. I need to cut a trench across the old driveway so that the electricians can then dig their trench to lay the mains power cable, which is then to be attached to the side of the house. Now the demo saw is an absolute beast and is incredibly noisy, and if this doesn't set the local neighbourhood dogs off barking, then nothing will. And as you can see, the electricians have turned up with their digger and trenches are being dug. As a result, the power is now off, which is a good time for me to do a spot of painting. I don't mind picking up the old paintbrush every now and then. It's nice and peaceful and gives you time to think. I like it. And while I'm out the back in my peaceful little bubble, the boys are out the front and hard at it. And you can see here the orange mains power cable in the trench. And that runs across the front of our property, in front of my neighbour's property, and connects to the top of this power pole. Once the mains power cable has been laid in that trench, they will backfill that trench to about half its depth. And then you'll notice how they've laid this orange tape. Now, mental note, the reason for the orange tape is that it's a warning tape. So if you are somewhere on your property and you're digging a hole and you come across that orange tape, stop, because beneath it is going to be your mains power cable and you don't want to dig that up. It could be a shocking experience. Get it? Shocking? Electrical? You get a shock when you dig it up? Forget it. Anyway, after that particularly poor joke, you can see now that the power has been connected and we are now good to go. So there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful. And as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. And make sure you stick around for the next episode where we'll be installing the kitchen as well as installing the bulkhead that goes above the kitchen, which is what I am doing right here. Once that's done, we'll look at plastering that bulkhead, and then it's time for the bench tops to go on, as well as a bit of painting. Alrighty, it's getting late. I think it's time for a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here. Just a quick video today about the importance of leaving expansion joints in your brand new floor. Now we laid this floor about 6 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, and it was put on battens, and then a solid floor was laid on top of those battens. We've had fairly humid weather over the last few weeks, and when we put our expansion joint in, that gap there, the expansion joint, was around 8mm wide. We've had 3 weeks of humid weather, and just to show you how far the floor expands, check this out. This set square, the blade's about 3mm wide, and it just fits in that groove or that expansion joint. So I hope that example has showed you the importance of having expansion joints in various spots in your brand new floor. If that expansion joint hadn't been there, these boards would have grown and eventually they've got nowhere to go but up, which is why you see some floors that have popped. Anyway, when doing your brand new floor, put those expansion joints in, job's right. Great tip, Knackers! And don't forget, big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 42 of my Owner Builder series. Now, things are getting serious. It's time for the kitchen installation, and after hours and hours of going through magazines and looking at colours and can we afford stone bench tops, glass splashback or tiles, door handles or no door handles, it's all come down to this, and hopefully all of our selections work out and we finish up with a pretty cool looking kitchen. It's an expensive exercise, so you don't want to mess it up. Now while the kitchen's being installed, I've got the painters in to paint the inside and the outside of the house. Now we're spraying the ceiling and all the woodwork or the trim. So what Ben's doing here is laying some plastic over the windows to protect them from the overspray, and Joe's doing the same here by first of all laying some tape on the floor at the base of the baseboards or the skirting boards, and he'll then cover the floor with plastic, which will protect that from all the overspray as well. Externally, the boys are just gapping up around all the quad and then giving the eaves and the verandas a good couple of coats of exterior grade paint. Now back to the kitchen, and the boys are putting in the first of the overheads. We've just used a standard laminate product for the overheads that are on the wall where we have our oven, and you can see here the boys use a pretty good technique of laying a couple of sticks up against the wall to support the overheads while they screw it together. I like it. And the painters, well, they've been kicked outside and they're doing the eaves and the underside of the veranda. Now just in case you're interested, the colour for the eaves and the verandas, that's natural white, and the external walls we've used Milton Moon, and they're all from the Dulux range. With the overheads in, it's time for me to put the nail bag back on to install the bulkhead, which will sit on top of those overhead cupboards. Now the point of the bulkhead is purely for cosmetic reasons. There's a fair bit of a gap between the top of the overhead cupboards and the ceiling, so I just wanted to close that gap up. and also it's going to create a bit of a shadow line which will give those cupboards a bit of depth. I think once it's all plastered it's going to look pretty good. Well, I hope it does. It took a fair bit of time to build that. And speaking of plastering, I've got the boys back from Paul Hickson Plastering to plaster up or drywall up that bulkhead. And you can see that gap between the top of the overhead and the underside of the bulkhead. They'll put an infill about 50mm back from the face of the overheads, and that will create a shadow line which will look really effective. And to finish it off, it gets a good sand with the electric vacuum sanding machine. Job's done. Now the kitchen cupboards, they are done, and while the painters are busy finishing off those walls, the benchtop boys are hard at it installing our Caesar stone benchtops, and the colour we've chosen is called Sleek Concrete. I have to say that so far I'm pretty happy with our selections, and I hope you've enjoyed watching it all come together. And if you have enjoyed the video, please, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. All this kitchen work is making me thirsty. I think it must be time for a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here. Hands up, who likes to fill the nail holes in your window, door and skirting board trim? Anyone? Anyone? Didn't think so. It's just a time-consuming job that no one seems to like doing, but it can be made a lot easier with the right tools and with the right product. To fill your hole, it's really simple. Just grab some product and put it on your tool, on your paint scraper. So with some of that filler on the scraper, just squeeze that into those holes. Give it a nice clean, and then once that dries, the filler will slightly bubble. Sand that back and you'll finish up with a beautiful smooth finish. Now the product that I've been using is a brand new one that I've never tried before. It's from Polyfiller. It's a professional interior exterior filler which is suitable for under gloss paints. Now I've used this and it's been absolutely superb, so I can highly recommend it. So once you've used the right tool and the right product, the job is so much easier. And what I tend to do is that after each window or each door or each length of skirting board, I then go and follow up by doing all the patching. That way I know exactly where I've been and I don't forget any holes to fill. So there you have it. That's how you patch up a hole. Great tip, Knackers! Well, I hope you found that video useful, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Alright, time for a cup of tea. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 47 of my Own a Builder series. Now believe it or not, but we are getting close to finishing the renovation. Pretty exciting stuff, and we're now at that point of getting the floors sanded in the old original section of the house. Now I've decided to get the professional floor sanders in for this job because the old floors, well, quite frankly, they're as rough as Hessian undies, and it just needs a professional's touch to get them looking back up to scratch. For the initial sanding, the boys are using an upright belt sander. Now, these machines, they're an absolute beast, and it's amazing how much they can take off. Now on this old floor, which is pretty rough, they're starting off with a 36 grit paper, then going to a 40, a 60 and then a 120. And what they have here is an edger, which is great for getting up close to your skirting board, baseboard and around door jambs. With the first round of sanding done in the old section of the house, I had to get into the kitchen in the new section of the house to get the splashback done before the boys would come in and do their floor sanding. Now, Justin's back doing his thing and I was in charge of cutting all the tiles, which proved a bit tricky. The conventional tile cutter wouldn't do it, so I had to resort to a grinder, which took a bit of practice, but I got there in the end. It was a very thin glaze on those tiles and they kept on chipping, so it just required a little bit of patience, but we got there in the end. I'm really happy with how the splashback's turning out. There were a lot of products to choose from, but I think we've made the right decision. And speaking of making the right decision, this was a controversial one. Do we go for a dark grout or a white grout? We've chosen the dark, and hopefully after it's all cleaned up, we've made the right decision again. But you'll just have to wait and see at the big reveal how that all turned out. With that kitchen splashback done, it's now time to start sanding the new section of the house. And for the initial pass, or the very first pass, you can see how Paul is going across the floorboards on a 30-degree angle. That's to get the boards nice and flat. All subsequent passes are done along the length of the board and never across the board. And with a brand new floor, they kick off with a 40 grit paper, then go to a 60, then a 120, and then finish off with this Polyvac disc sander, which uses a 150 grit paper, and that just puts the nice finishing touch to the floorboards. I've now been kicked out of the house while the boys vacuum up all that excess sawdust in preparation to apply the floor sealer. And once again, I've been banned from coming inside during this process, which is fair enough because the boys don't want me stirring up any loose dust particles which may contaminate that beautiful finish. And speaking of finish, what the boys are using is they're applying 3 coats of a solvent-based satin polyurethane. And after seeing it all done, I have to say that it's an outstanding product and the end result is just beautiful. So that's it folks, the floor sanding and the kitchen splashback, they are all done. And I really hope that you can stick around for the final and reveal video where you can see how both of those things turned out. I have to say, spectacular. The old floorboards, they are outstanding, and the splashback, I love it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. Is that the time? Must be time for a cup of tea. So till then, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 48 of my Own a Builder series. We are so close to the end of this job, just the deck and the driveway to go. And what I'm doing here is that I'm marking out the finished height for the front deck. Now what I want is for the top of the board to finish up just underneath the bottom of the sill on our front door. Now the timber's just arrived, smack on time, and I think I may have overwrought it. There seems to be a lot here. So all the timber for the front deck has just turned up. Now both of these packs, they're both Tonka, which is the same material as to what my front veranda posts are made of. Therefore they're all going to match. Now there's a little bit there, so guess what I'm doing this weekend? Better get to it. Now I've got to get back to this leveling up process. Now when you do it, take your time because you've got to get this spot on. too easy.
Once you get the height you want on those two end posts, run a string line through and then mark all the intermediate posts so they all finish up at the same height. Once that's done, grab your saw and start your checkouts. And just in case you're wondering, I am going to be doing a more detailed how to build a deck series coming up shortly, so stay tuned for that one.
After a fair bit of mucking around, I finally got these checkouts made. Tonka is an extremely hard timber, and to get these checkouts just right, it's quite difficult. But a bit of perseverance, and it's worked out beautifully. Now before I insert any beams onto these posts, I want to treat those cuts. And I'm using an LOSP product, which is a light organic solvent preservative. It is an end sealer. You squirt it onto the cut surface, and this product soaks into the timber and helps preserve it. Give it a good shake. Just squirt it on. And don't be shy with it. Give it a good old squirt. Now I'll let that dry before I insert those timbers, and I might even give it a second coat. See how time permits. Cheers. Just a few seconds ago, this beam was a big 6 metre length. I put it in place last night, but there's a huge bow in it, so I clamped it under pressure, and I hoped that overnight it would relieve some of that bow. I came back today, put this beam in that checkout there, but the pressure from this beam was pushing upwards because I heard the roof creak. So unfortunately I've had to cut this beam, and now instead of one nice long length, it's 2 pieces. But anyway, that's what you have to do sometimes. So as per usual, get your LOSP treatment and spray the ends. You don't want these joins rotting out. Beautiful. Okay, get those remaining fascia beams on and then attach them to the posts using some galvanized cup head bolts. Now I like to countersink in the head of the bolt because I think it gives it a nice industrial look. Drill through the post and then bang in those bolts. Beautiful. So after 2 days of hardcore floor sanding, this is what has come off those floors. A bin full of sawdust. Plus an extra 3 plastic bags. Now that's not a bad effort. So there are the floor joists all done, and it looks pretty good. Now to finish it off, all we need to do is run a row of noggins right down the centre, and they'll help stiffen up that floor. And then finally, just attach these hanging brackets on either end of each floor joist. Now they're very simple to put on. You just slide them underneath the joist, just like this, and then nail it to the joist and to your fascia beam. Now another great reason why I like to use these brackets is that when you nail from the back of the fascia beam, you're not putting any fixings through the front of your fascia beam. So that keeps the job looking nice and neat. I like it. Now here's a quick tip. If you're doing a deck similar to this and you're putting on a lot of those hanging brackets like I have, see if you can lay your hands on one of these coil nailers. It is simply a gun that has a coil of nails in it, which is fed up through the top here. Fencers use these because they're so fast. I've got 40 brackets on this job and each bracket has 20 nails in it. So it's 800 nails and I did that in about 10 minutes. Proof's in the pudding. If you can get your hands on one, do it. It'll save you a truckload of time. Now that all the subfloor work has been done, we're now ready to start putting down some boards. And I've got 2 drills set up. I've got one here with a countersinking bit in the end. I haven't tried these before, so I'm interested to see how it goes. Apparently, when this drill bit goes down and this section here hits the board and stops spinning, the depth is correct and the countersinking is spot on. So I'm interested to give that a crack. And the second drill bit, or the second drill, is just set up with a drill bit in the end to insert my, whoop, not that, my stainless steel screws. Alrighty, less chat and more action. Let's get into it. Now I've got this template made up, so all I need to do is place it on the board directly over the joist, drill through those holes, and that way all the holes should be the same right along that board. Or at least that's the theory. Let's give it a go. Getting there. When I countersink these holes, it just leaves a bit of a burr. So before I insert the screw, the stainless steel screw, I just want to take that burr off. So a bit of a sand, like that. Blow out the sawdust. And we've got a nice clean finish. All that burr's gone. Beautiful. All I need to do to finish the deck off is to build these steps and we are done. You little beauty. I have to say, it hasn't come up too bad. I'm happy. So I hope you enjoyed and found that video useful. And as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. And make sure you stick around because I'll put a few more photos up of the deck in a bit more detail. Okay, I think this deck needs 2 things. Number 1 is a comfy old chair, and number 2 is an icy cold beer. That's my idea of total bliss. Alright, well I'm off to find an old chair, so till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 49 of my Owner Builder series. Well, I think it's time for a new driveway, So I've got my old mate Franco Dwyer back to pull up all the concrete from the old driveway to make way for the new one. Now, seriously, for a small house, I cannot believe how much concrete we have taken out of this project. It's mind-boggling. With all that concrete gone, it's now time to put up some formwork. So the boys have run out a string line to the dimension of the driveway, and then they bang in some pegs to attach the formwork to. Now the top of the formwork is the finished height for the driveway, so the boys use a laser level to get that measurement spot on, and then just use a nail gun to nail that formwork off. With that formwork now complete, it's time to prep the base of the driveway, and what the boys are doing here is they're spreading out some crusher dust, which will give a nice firm base for the slab to sit on. And the idea is to have the top of that crusher dust 100mm or 4 inches below the top of the slab. Even in slow motion, these blokes work pretty quick. Puts me to shame. It's embarrassing. Okay, the screeding's all done, and now it's time to lay some plastic over the top of that crusher dust. And what the plastic does is that it stops moisture from coming up from the ground and up through your slab. Once all the plastic's been run out and taped, it's now time to lay down the concrete reinforcing mesh. And this is a product which binds the concrete together. So make sure you don't forget this stage. Pretty critical. Now to tie all those separate sheets of mesh together, you use these metal ties. You wrap the tie around both sheets, give it a twist with your snips, and snip it off. And once again, the tie goes around both sheets, twist it around and snip it off. Too easy. And as per the universal law of concreting, we've just had 7 days straight worth of rain. So Billy's been having a great time helping me empty out all those trenches that are filled up with water. He's having a great time. The simple things. It looks like the skies are clear for the next couple of days, so it's full steam ahead to get this driveway poured. Out the chute, into the barrow, and off we go. Happy days. Now, as you can probably see, we've gone for a coloured concrete, being charcoal. And as a general rule of thumb, you use a 10 kilo bag of colour through powder to 1 metre of concrete. As far as the finish goes, we're going for an exposed aggregate look, which for those unsure of what that is, it's where you can see the stones that come up through the top of the concrete. I love watching these blokes do this. They make it look so easy. If I was doing it, it'd finish up looking like an absolute dog's breakfast. Guaranteed. Now this is a sight for sore eyes. The worksite toilet is finally being removed, which means one thing, the job is almost finished. Bye bye toilet, see ya. So after 9 months, I now have access to a normal toilet. You little ripper. Now this is where things start to get interesting. Because we're going for an exposed aggregate finish, the boys need to spray on this product called Parasail. Now what Parasail does is that it keeps the first 3 to 5 millimeters of the concrete soft. And the purpose of that is so that the boys can come along with their pressure cleaner and pressure clean off that first 3 to 5 millimeters of concrete, which will expose the stone. Once it's all been pressure cleaned, the hose comes out and they'll just hose off all the excess, give it a bit of a sweep, and we are done. Love it. And like most concreting jobs, don't forget to finish off by cutting in your expansion joints. Our driveway of 15 metres in length, we had 4 expansion joints in total. The concrete's been sitting there for the last 4 to 5 days, so there's only one job left to do, and that's to apply the concrete sealer. Now the concrete sealer is an epoxy based concrete sealer, and it goes on by simply using an everyday paint roller. It really makes that charcoal colour pop. I love it. And here it is, folks, all done, and I could not be any happier. It came up absolutely beautiful, and I don't think the camera or the light is doing it any justice. See if we can just get a bit of a close-up of how the aggregate looks. Just like that. Bit of white mixed in with some blue metal, and from the front it looks just like this. It came up an absolute treat. Well done, lads. And I absolutely love it. The boys couldn't have done a better job. And I have to say that the colour of that concrete complements the colour of the deck beautifully. Good choice, I reckon. The finish and the colour was absolutely spot on, and the price wasn't too bad either. So I must give a big shout out to Ray Ellicott and his boys for doing a fantastic job. And I'll leave a link to Ray's details in the description box below, so make sure you check those guys out. With the concreting done, we are that close to being finished. I can almost taste it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and as per usual, a big thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. You know what? I think it's time for a cup of tea, so till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. Check this out, would you? The side of our house looks like a bomb's gone off. The rest of the yard, that's all been done, and it's all looking pretty good. We just need to wait for some of those plants to grow. But the sideway, it definitely needs some work. Now the first job I want to have a crack at is to build an outdoor shower, because let's face it, what beach house doesn't have one? I already have the hot and cold water installed, and there's a tap down there to wash your feet. So all we need to do is to build a timber screen to attach our tapware to, install some plumbing to handle all that water waste, and then lay a concrete slab to give us something to stand on. And my objective is to do this as cheaply as I possibly can by using recycled materials, apart from the concrete slab. And with a bit of luck, I should be able to scrounge most of that material up from around the house. Let's do it. Now look, I'd love to show you how I built the outdoor shower, so if you'd like to see the entire process, I'll leave a link to the video in the description box down below. It should give you some really good ideas as to how to build the shower, complete with plumbing suggestions. So that's it, folks. The outdoor shower is done, complete with screen, tapware, a concrete slab that includes drainage. I also put down some paving so your feet don't get dirty after having a shower, and I also added an old recycled wooden ladder to hang your towel off. Great tip, knackers! So that's it folks, I hope you enjoyed and found useful my how to build an outdoor shower video. And as per usual, a big thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. And if this is your first time to my channel, please hit that subscribe button for more handy tips. And if you'd like to see more detailed photos of the finished product and the build process, head on over to my Facebook page, which I'll leave a link to in the description box down below. So make sure you check that one out. Alrighty, I think I need a cup of tea and maybe even a shower. So till next time, I'm out of here. Cheers. G'day folks. Sorry about the interruption. I've just got a couple of quick things that I need to share with you before I show you the big reveal. Now, like most owner builders, true to form, we ran out of cash. So we couldn't, back in 2015, exactly, well, finish the project. So after a couple of years after we moved in, we got enough cash together to do a couple of more projects which really finished the house off. So I'll quickly go over those more recent projects and then I'll go back all the way to 2015 when I did the actual video to do the big reveal. If you know what I mean. Clear as mud? Good. When it comes to installing a deck over concrete, like I have here, it's a pretty basic process, just as long as the concrete is in a good, sound condition. The main thing is to keep those floor joists off the concrete and use construction grade timber that is rated for outdoor use, and there is a plethora of options available in regard to how to attach those floor joists to the concrete, either via metal brackets or plastic adjustable pedestals. Now that's all great, but I have a bit of an issue, and that is a low clearance issue. From the top of the concrete to the top of the floor, which is going to be the top of the deck, is only 55 millimeters. And by the time we run that out to the end of the deck, it's 85 millimeters, which means that there is not enough clearance to fit a plastic pedestal or a metal bracket, and that means that I'm going to have to cut a taper on all of these joists. Fun times ahead. Just very quickly, how's this? About 1 hour after I shot that last piece of footage, we had a massive hailstorm like you've never seen before. It's caused monumental damage to roofs, cars and vegetation. So I've spent the last couple of days repairing damage and cleaning up. Just a bit to go, so stick with me and we'll get back to that deck. The first thing we need to do is to start cutting those floor joists to size using my brand spanking new 12-inch DeWalt miter saw. Seriously, this thing is an absolute beast. The next mission was to knock up a jig to make those taper cuts. Now, using a couple of old fascia boards for the base, I nailed down some blocks in two perfectly straight lines, the width of the joist apart, and next to them screwed a spare joist down to the fascia board to help support the saw base. And all I can say is bring on summer, as those legs could really do with a tan. Once you've worked out the height of the joist from one end to the other, flick a straight line with your chalk line. Now just quietly, this is one of the best little gadgets ever invented, and I'll link to one down below if you're interested. Now the groove I made with the knife acts as a third hand and helps hold one end in the right spot as I make my way down to the other end of the joist. Time to cut the taper, and with the joist squeezed in between the blocks on either side, the cut will tend to close in on itself, making it hard for the saw and potentially causing deadly kickback. So to prevent that, just place some small wedges in the gap behind the saw to keep the cut open, and away you go. On one of the offcuts, I went ahead and made a hole template which indicates where I want the concrete anchors located so they won't interfere with any of the decking board fixtures, and then just transferred those marks onto the actual floor joist. Using a spade bit, I then countersunk the holes so that the heads of the concrete anchors are well and truly beneath the surface of the joist, and then followed that up by pre-drilling the holes.
Before we attach the joist to the concrete, I'm just going to give the bottom and the ends a couple of coats of water-based bitumen paint to help protect against moisture. And as per usual, Nibbles the apprentice is showing no interest whatsoever. I tell you what, it's hard to get good help these days. Now just before we commit to screw everything down, do yourself a favour and give it one last check just to make sure that everything is nice and level. Beautiful! And don't forget to nail the appropriate size packers to the underside of the joist. These will keep the joist off the concrete, and I'm placing mine at 380mm centres, which is directly beneath the concrete anchor hole. With the joist positions marked out on the slab, lay out the joist and start drilling the holes. This first step is just basically to get a mark on the concrete. Now find yourself some tape and set the drilling depth on the masonry drill bit. Just remember that most slabs are only about 100mm thick, so make sure you don't drill all the way through or you may have moisture coming up through the hole. Now I set mine to a depth of 75mm. Now go back and drill those holes to the set depth and then blow the dust out of the hole with something like a bike pump or an air compressor. We can now attach the joist to the concrete with one of these masonry anchors. Now this one's called an anchor screw, but I've also seen them called screw bolts. And just be warned, you will need a good quality impact driver to drive these things in. Now just in regard to those fixings, we do have a few options. Like I said before, I'm using these concrete screw bolts, but you can also use Dynabolts or even these plastic plugs with a bugle screw. Now these are a great option if you don't happen to have yourself an impact driver. And remember, because we're working outside, these fixings will need to be galvanised. Now a very important thing to remember when working with the subframe, and that is, where possible, avoid timber touching timber, as that only encourages water to seep into those joints, which speeds up the rotting process. Can you hear those baby birds? Must be feeding time. They are going nuts. Now a good example is around your posts. Try and leave a gap so that any water can get away. Since we're constructing things, did you hear the one about the construction worker who walked into a bar with a slab of asphalt under his arm? The barman asks, "What can I get you, mate?" And the construction worker says, "1 beer for me and 1 for the road." Classic. Asphalt. Road. Now with the last joist, I'm attaching it with the plastic anchors and bugle screws, as I don't want to risk blowing out the edge of the concrete, which is a possibility if I use the impact driver and the screw bolts. And then just give the joist a bit of a love tap with your foot, just to make sure everything's screwed down nice and secure. And this is how you want your joist to finish up. Flat, level, and ready for the decking boards. Beautiful. Great tip, Knuckles! Now here's a really cool trick for getting really tight butt joins,
and that is place a thin strip of wood about, I don't know, 4 inches or 100 millimeters away from where the blade comes down, and then when you place your board on top of that, that's going to cause the blade to come down and give us a bit of an undercut. And that means that when the two boards meet, you'll finish up with an ultra tight joint. Apply a coat of oil to the ends of each board before screwing down for added protection. To get perfectly straight boards, I like to use a string line for every run. A little time consuming, but well worth it. If you'd like to know how to tie a tight string line, which is very important, make sure you click on the card that should be popping up now on the top right of your screen. A couple of gentle taps with your hammer should have that string line sitting just right. Line the string line up with the outside of the board and away you go. To achieve consistent screw hole spacings, do yourself a favour and make a screw hole jig. It saves time and vastly improves the look of the finished product. Make sure you pre-drill all your holes with a countersinking bit and then give it a quick sand to get rid of all those pesky burrs. As far as the screw holes go, I like to stagger mine as there is less chance of a crack developing along the screw line on top of the joist, which can let the water in, which in turn speeds up the rotting process. And after driving in a back-breaking 280 concrete anchors and 1,210 decking screws, we now have a beautiful seamless transition from the inside to the outside. And you just wait till I apply a couple of coats of decking oil. This is going to be stunning. Now, if you want to see more decking type videos just like this one, make sure you check out my How to Build a Deck playlist, which should be popping up over there just about now. Hope to see you there shortly. Alrighty, after all that, I'm off for a cup of tea. So till next time, be good, be safe, and I'm out of here. Cheers. Hang on a sec, that looks a bit serious. 3 packs of beautiful Aussie hardwood dumped on my front lawn. I think it's time for a new front fence. There goes the weekend. Now first things first, let's get those pesky post holes dug. And since I've got a bit of a dodgy old shoulder, I recruited my neighbour Bo as chief hole digger. And just between you and me, it's the best $70 I've ever spent. Now while young Bo was slaving away on those post holes, I decided to put a round over profile on all of the fencing material. A monumental task, but it was well worth it as it leaves the wood with a nice profile and gets rid of all those pesky splinters that can often plague a square edge profile. And I have to say that the amazing RT1000 performed like an absolute champion. Now just in case you're wondering, yes, you are right. Treated timber, such as treated pine, also known as pressure treated lumber in some other countries, is often recommended for fence posts as they are pest resistant. That's hard to say, and they also tolerate being put in the ground. However, no treated pine for me. For this job, I'm using this beautiful Aussie hardwood called ironbark, which is a Class 1 for durability rated timber, which lasts 25 plus years in the ground and 40 plus years above the ground. So that's going to see me well and truly out. And to improve that longevity even further, I'm coating the part that goes in the ground with a waterproofing bitumen paint. Now when it comes time to finally putting those posts in the ground, obviously the post fairy doesn't rock up and wave his big magic wand and suddenly all your posts perfectly line up in a beautiful straight line. It just doesn't work like that. Your posts, they do need to be straight, but in most cases you also need to work to the property's boundary. And to do that, you need to set up some timber profiles in the ground, like I have here, that enables you to drive in a nail to run a string line off, which you then align your posts up to. Before the posts go in, I like to add about 100 millimeters of gravel into the hole to encourage drainage away from the bottom of the post. Some people think it's a waste of time, but you know what? It can't do any harm and it gives me some peace of mind. Alrighty, in go the posts, and to keep them in position so they don't move around once they've been plumbed up flush to the string line, just attach some simple braces which will stop the post from moving around when you place in the concrete, and it also holds them in place until that concrete dries. Now with all those posts braced and in place, mix up a batch of concrete, and I generally use 2 20-kilogram bags per post, and make sure that you agitate the concrete as you go with your shovel to make sure that the concrete gets right around the post and into all those hard to reach nooks and crannies. And to finish off, I then top up the rest of the hole by adding a combination of the soil that you've taken out of the hole and pure cement mixed together, which I then compact down in sections as I go. Now trust me, these fence posts are never going to move. Now just to go the extra mile, a really good thing to do to extend the life of your post is to build that soil and cement mixture up just above ground level so that any future water, rather than sitting against the post, runs away from the post. Speaking about fences, how's this? A couple of days ago, I was walking past this really tall fence, and from behind it, I heard this group of kids chanting, 13, 13, 13. And I thought, what's going on over there? So I tried to look over the top of the fence, but I couldn't because it was too tall. And then halfway down, I noticed a little peephole. I thought, that's perfect. So I went over to it to look through it. I've got my eye up against it like that. Next thing you know, boom, one of these kids' fingers has gone through the hole and fair smack into the middle of my eye. I nearly took it out. I had tears just running down my face like this. And next thing I heard this excited chant from behind the fence of these kids, and they're going, 14, 14, 14. And I thought, you cheeky little sods. You got me. Oldest trick in the book. Can't believe I fell for it. I've got myself a chalk line here, which is an easy way to mark out the location of the fence rails over multiple posts with one easy flick of the line. Once they're marked, you're ready to cut out the rail checkouts with your trusty circular saw. Now if you're not too comfortable using a circular saw, which is understandable, to cut out those checkouts, you may want to check out my circular saw masterclass that I'll link to down below in the description box. Now just a little tip. To help extend the life of your fence, coat all the fresh checkouts and cut ends with decking oil before you screw the rails in place. And don't forget to cut an angle on top of the post so the water runs off it. Now check this out. How good does that finish look? It's stunning, and I'm just going to apply 2 coats of that decking oil to the posts and rails before I screw on the fence battens. To make my life a little easier, I am pre-cutting all my fence battens to size. Then pre-drilling and countersinking the screw holes with the aid of a template so all the holes finish up the same, and then finally, I'm getting there folks, finishing the battens off by applying a couple of coats of decking oil. And again, I have to say, how good does that finish look? Love it. Now here's just a couple of quick tips to be aware of when driving soft stainless steel screws into hardwood. Now it's a great idea to pre-drill all your screw holes to stop those screws from snapping, and I also like to dip my screw into the decking oil that I'm using, which will act as a lubricant. Might need to rephrase that last paragraph. And please resist the urge to use your impact driver to drive in the screws, as that will only snap off the screws, leaving a nasty mess to fix. Instead, set the clutch on your regular drill so that it kicks in once the screw comes to a stop. To keep all the battens the same height, I'm sitting them on a metal straight edge, which I'll screw to the posts on either end, which makes the job so much easier. Now look, I have to say that pre-drilling, plumbing and screwing on all those 40x40 battens is a little time consuming, but the end result is definitely worth it. Now to be honest, there are still a couple of landscaping jobs needed to finish the fence in regard to planting and installing some Core-10 steel as garden edging. But all in all, I love how the fence adds to that beachy vibe of the place. It gives the house some curb appeal, and more importantly, it gets the Minister of Finance off my back until she finds me another job to do, which it won't be long. Trust me. Alrighty, after all that, I think I need a good cup of tea. Thanks for watching folks. Until next time, be good, be safe, and I'm out of here. Cheers. Can't believe I dressed up as a fairy. The lengths I go to, I don't know. G'day Knuckleheads, Uncle Knackers here, and welcome to episode 50 of my Owner Builder series. 50! It's hard to believe, but the good news is that episode 50 is the one you've all been waiting for. The big reveal. You little ripper! So we've actually moved into the house, and inside we're basically all done, apart from a few small things like the towel rails and the toilet roll holders. But apart from that, we are done. On the outside, we kind of ran out of funds, so the landscaping may have to just wait a little while, but that's okay. And what I intend to do with this reveal is do a quick house tour, and then at the end I'll leave a link to my Pinterest page where you can check out all the photos over a nice hot cup of tea, so make sure you check those out. Anyway, enough of that, let's go inside. Now before we get too excited, I just want to say a couple of things. The Owner Builder experience was fantastic. Time-wise, we ran over by about a month, and that was mainly due to the bad weather that we had at the start of the job. Budget-wise, we ran over by about 10 grand, and that was mainly because we upgraded on our blinds, our oven and our dishwasher. But apart from that, it all ran to schedule. So all in all, I'm absolutely stoked. So without further ado, let's start the tour. So first up, here is the kitchen. And I think it turned out absolutely fantastic. So this whole bank of cabinetry, which stretches from here right down to the end, is all pantry. So that gives us heaps and heaps of storage. Plenty of room for the cornflakes, so don't worry about that. And the void, it's a decent sized void for a decent sized fridge. So there's plenty of room for your beer. Also important. Now for the bench tops, we chose Caesar stone, and the colour, that is sleek concrete, SLEEK, and it blends in beautifully with our charcoal cupboards. And for the kitchen splashback, we've gone with a white hexagonal tile, and the grout, that's platinum grey, and that platinum grey really makes those tiles stand out. And we did the same thing in our laundry. Now for the oven and the cooktop, we've gone with this freestanding 900mm Smeg 6 burner model. Gas on top, electric underneath. You can easily fit 2 chooks and a tray full of spuds in here, no dramas. And it was actually floor stock, so we got it at a really good price. We couldn't knock it back. And the dishwasher, we picked up this really nice Asco. Fantastic machine. It's quiet and cleans your dishes beautifully. So in my books, that's a tick and a tick. Highly recommended. Now for the overhead cupboards, we just used a laminate product, which looks really good and was a lot cheaper than what we used on the cupboards beneath. And we also used that laminate on the front of this island bench. And these 2 pendant lights over the kitchen bench, they don't really do much. They're there basically just for looks. And from that point of view, I really like them. So from the kitchen, we swing around, go past the sliding doors that lead out to the outside deck, and this is our living dining area. TV's a bit small, could do with a bigger one. Air conditioning down the end, and I love these timber fans. 2 for the price of 1, and they throw out a heap of air. Really good. And this is the couch where I edit all of my movies. What? Oh, that's terrible. Delete. Oh. From the living room, we then go through these 2 big double doors that I had specially made up. Now you can see that brown door right down the end. That's the front door. Now I absolutely love these doors. And I love this door bolt. You probably can't see it, but it looks good and it sounds good. And to open the doors, all you need to do is fold them back and they lock hard up against the wall. Beautiful.
Sorry about the interruption, folks, but I've just been through the footage of me doing the walkthrough back in 2015 when I made the video, and my camera work, well, it was a bit off, and the house was scantily furnished at best, so it didn't really show off what the house really is. So what I've done is that I've compiled a list of finished photos for you to check out, rather than having you sit through 5 minutes of, well, rather dodgy footage, which to me seems like a much better idea. So, hope you like the finished product. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Until next time, I'm out of here. Cheers.